Do you know how many comments I get of people saying things like this? You're overestimating this patch. Rifles won't be that strong. Well, it may be in some regard, but not this. I told you I will find a way to give rifles their glory back, and the only way I feel is valid enough for me is to prove it in PvP. If it works there, I can make it work anywhere else. At first, I was losing hope, fam, because I was using the Ravenous in PvP. Don't get me wrong, the Ravenous is extremely powerful in PvP, but it's also extremely hard to use and extremely hard to obtain. I use that in PvE more since it decimates everything it touches. But check this out. I brought the Ravenous in the conflict match, and I'm glad I did because I was getting my cheeks slapped. Nowadays, Division 2 PvP consists of fast and loose gameplay, and the Ravenous often feels a bit slower in the midst of it all due to its talent. So I was getting outplayed in almost every 1v, and at that very moment I thought all hope was lost. Briefly feeling the sting, those comments of everyone claiming rifles not being strong, but at that moment, a light bulb went off in my head and I said to myself, why not go back to your original plan, B? The M1A CQB. Yes, the sleeper rifle that made this build come to life. It's hard hitting, stable, and feels awesome, and it allows me to compete with the best of them. So I use this in PvP and the Ravenous in PvE mainly. But enough talk. I'm eager to show you this build, and before I do, drop a like if you're hyped about what I'm going to show you, and subscribe if you're new. Now let's not waste any more time. Let me show you the build. Alright fam, we're here. And at first, I made this build a different way, completely. I wanted to make it with the new brand set and a new gear set, the new rifle gear set that we call Breaking Point. It was slapping in the PTS, and usually when you play in the PTS, you don't play PvP because there's nobody playing PvP. I didn't really know how it would hit, and I don't know, it just seemed like it was stronger when I was using it in the PTS. But as I began to play with it, even when I was streaming yesterday, I was struggling. People in my stream were noticing that I was struggling as well, and I'm like, I gotta do something about this. Are they right? Are the rifles underwhelming? Are they not as strong? What am I gonna do about this? So I switched to the Ravenous, and like I said, the Ravenous was hitting super hard in PvE. And I'm like, okay, this is looking good. And then I got towards the end of the mission when I was running the manhunt, and I was struggling again with the Ravenous. Turns out that I had to completely change the build up all the way. Because at first I was using a 4-piece Breaking Point with Fox's Prayer knee pads and the SP brand set. First of all, that explanation of on point is just, I don't really fully understand it, and it seemed like it wasn't really doing me justice. So I went with this approach. Okay, first of all, let me talk about the specialization. You want Sharpshooter because it's going to give you Breathe Free, which gives you weapon handling. It gives you the blind grenades, which are great for rifle builds, and using an armor kit removes all status effects. So overall, this is the perfect specialization for this build. But this is what I was talking about. Okay, look at this. The M1A CQB. I haven't used this weapon at all in this game, in Division 2 at all. The only time I used this weapon was in Division 1 with Deadeye and Sentry's Call. This was pretty much meta in Division 1. You know what I mean? I didn't pay this any mind at all. But when I use it in the PTS, it was hitting so hard, and I'm like, okay, there's no other rifle that's hitting as hard as this. Fire rate, everything, it just feels good. So it immediately became at the top of my list. And now this is what I'm using. This is my original plan. The stats aren't great. You can craft this weapon at the base of operations very easily. You should have a blueprint for this. But I got it with damage to targets out of cover. And the talent I have is Boomerang. Critical hits have a 50% chance to return the bullet to the magazine. If the bullet is returned to the magazine, the next shot has 40% damage. So if you have amplified damage on your build, it's going to amplify this. And for so long, I've been waiting for the opportunity to compete with assault rifle builds. When you're 1ving somebody, this literally chunks their health and armor like never before. And that's because of the buffs that I have on a build that I'm going to show you in a second. For the secondary, I'm using the Ouroboros. Of course, I'm going to use this weapon, right? Remember I said that gameplay is fast and loose and you need to be shifty. I don't have time to go too off meta, okay? I need to be able to compete. I'm already doing enough using a rifle for my primary, but this is great for when people try and rush me or when I'm just in a standoff. I'm usually the victor. And you know, rule them all is when an agent has a status effect applied, you return it back to the enemy once you reload. But here's the build. I decided to go with Striker approach for 2 reasons. Okay, I'm using the Ravenous in PvE as I said, and Strikers just offers weapon handling and rate of fire. When you're using the Ravenous, that thing, it jumps and it's slow firing. So that 15% rate of fire and weapon handling is perfect for this setup. And Striker's Gamble just increases your weapon damage the more you get stacks on the enemy. You can get stacks in no time with the Ouroboros. So I have a 4-piece with this, and I'm using a ninja bike, so I only need 3. And I'm not using the backpack for more increased damage, but it's okay because I play this build extensively in both PvP and PvE, and I didn't need it. Clearly this is enough, but I prefer the utility over the damage anyway because I wouldn't be able to get these right here. So here's the new brand set. I'll call this SP. Here's how this is pronounced. 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤 translates to Scout or Pathfinder, which is why I named this build the Scout. So the brand name could be associated with scouting or exploration themes in the context of the game. As you can see, this logo is like a mountain or some scenery. The first piece is magazine size, and the second piece gives you 20% rifle damage. The only other brand set that gives you 20% is Douglas and Harding, 20% pistol damage. But the magazine size is perfect for this M1A. It gives me 17 in the mag. Normally this by default has a low mag capacity, so this kind of helps me out with staying in the fight when I'm having those 1Vs or whatever else I'm doing. I only need one of these. It's going to give me the 2-piece. It'll be nice to have the 30% weapon handling, but I needed the other slot for the breaking point knee pads. But let me tell you about the talent I'm using. I didn't want to be squishy in this build at all. Okay, I have 1.5 million armor, as you can see. I want it to be formidable from a distance and close, so I'm using Unbreakable. Basically, it gives you a free armor bar when your armor is depleted, 95% in PvE, and I think like 60 or 50% in PvP. So this helps me out a lot in those 1v1 engagements and just basic survivability overall. Hey, excuse my voice, y'all. It's a little bit late. I just felt like I had to get this out right now, but I didn't want to use the 4-piece breaking point gear set. Like I said, I just wanted to utilize the damage bonuses that it gives me. Now, this is what I was talking about. People were saying that it's underwhelming, but I think that this is the only update that gives so many rifle damage bonuses. 25% rifle damage, and I don't really need anything else here. I'm not using a marksman rifle, but if I was, this helps a lot as well. So all I need is 1 piece of this and it'll give me this bonus. And I know what you're thinking. Why don't you have the Fox's Prayer knee pads? Well, I tested this out, man. Both of them. I have a Fox's Prayer. I could easily roll one of them to armor, so I can keep 1.5 million armor, but it just wasn't performing strong enough for me. I don't know. Because with the Fox's Prayer, it gives you 10% rifle damage and 8% damage to targets out of cover, which is cool. This gives me 25% flat rifle damage. And overall, it just felt better. So, I mean, you can test it out to see if you want to use Fox's Prayer, but this was working out for me phenomenally. So this is what I wanted to use. So with Striker, since you only have 1 attribute you can roll, you want to prioritize crit chance. I have crit chance mods in here, and let me show you the stats. Of course, I'm not going to be able to reach a maximum amount of crit hit damage, but I wanted to get as close to 60% crit hit chance as I could, and I was able to get up to 50. And that's because some of the pieces on my build already have critical hit damage rolled on it, so I had to roll the armor core so I can get the 1.5 million armor. Doesn't really matter what pistol you use because I don't really switch to that. Even the Orbit, I don't really worry about switching to that. It's either the Ouroboros or the M1A CQB. Now the skills I use are fast cooldown skills for a DPS build, and that's the EMP Sticky Bomb and the Decoy. The Sticky Bomb helps me get enemies off track whenever they rush me or they're sitting behind cover, whatever. Sticky Bomb is perfect, man. It staggers the enemy and it disrupts them. Of course, if they have more skill tiers than you, it won't do anything to them in that regard, but it's doing what it has to do for me in this build. And the Decoy is really great for anonymity, especially when you get pulse, you drop this down, the pulse goes to the Decoy. So let me show you how the Ravenous works, okay? Just put something. Oh, and I almost forgot. Sometimes I use this new name shotgun called Light Glue. The talent is Perfect Brazen, okay? You receive amplified damage, plus 3% on the next weapon shot with the weapon for each pellet. that hits the target if at least 4 pellets hit. Killing an enemy will provide plus 8% amplified damage on the next shot. Okay, this is very strong, especially since it's a Super 90 variant shotgun. It fires fast and you have weapon handling, so you're going to reload pretty fast. And here's what I use for the PvE, the Ravenous, for the most part. I mean, I know most of you probably don't have this because you gotta either complete the incursion to get this and get lucky at the end, or get lucky in the dark zone. Either way, it's very annoying to try and get, but it's so worth it. The Ravenous penetrates the armor of robotic dogs and chungas. It decimates everything. And it's the perfect PvE weapon. So I highly suggest that you get this weapon. If not, then you can still wreck everything with the M1ACQB. But that's pretty much it for this build. I had to show this to you, and this is the way I wanted to go with the rifle. I need to be formidable. I need to be strong in PvE and PvP. I'm not trying to sit back and do none of that. No, I want to fight you face to face. And this was especially important to me because personally, I like to challenge myself. And when people tell me I can't do something, it just motivates me to do it even more. So me going against somebody head on with a rifle and you're using an automatic weapon, yeah, that says something. Anyways, let me know what you think about this down below in the comment section. And I want you to do me a favor. Comment Scout below. Let me know you made it here. And if this helped you out in any way, please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I'll see you in the next one. Be right out.